Print's warping so bad, but bed adhesion so good that it peels the plate up with it. Adam Savage had a pretty cool print failure, and printing so hard the wheels fall off. All this and more, Print Fix Friday, episode 102. Let's get into it. Hey guys, welcome back to the channel, and if you're new here and you're dealing with some print failures, don't worry, we got you covered here on Print Fix Friday. Remember, if you want to submit your fails for me to take a look at, you can do so by hitting us up on all the social media platforms or emailing me directly, YouTube at 3dmusketeers.com, and my assistant Victoria, who is clearly working very hard helping out around the shop, will get those fails over to me so we can take a look. While you're there, make sure to leave a like and get subscribed. It costs you nothing and helps the channel grow. We have some awesome, interesting print failures, and one of them that kind of stumps me, but maybe we're moving in the right direction, and I'd love to know your thoughts on it. But first, I'd like to tell you about our sponsor, 3D Musketeers. Yep, sponsoring this one on our own because there's some really awesome things coming here on the channel, and I'd like you guys to know about it. And if you do want to support the channel, you can do so. Patreon, PayPal, YouTube channel members, all linked in that description down below. We are going to be doing a lot more live stream content as I look to make my garage a more habitable space for me to stream out there during the day here in the soup that is Florida. That means more streams, so keep an eye out for those because the first one coming up is with FlexiSpot, who sent us over a desk to tidy up the workspace out there. We're going to be doing an entire series on creating the ideal work setup, in my opinion, for making cool stuff out there. So if you guys want to see that, stay tuned because that is coming. But we are also looking to do more long format videos where we go in depth into certain topics. Potentially, we're going to put those inside of a learning management suite, kind of like Udemy, where there are paid classes involved, where we'll have a simplified version of it available for free. And then, hey, if you want the let's go with masterclass for it, it will be available for a couple of bucks that go directly into supporting the terrible hobby that I have of trying to make the best content possible with very little resources and even further, very little time. The reason that we're doing this is to push for the ability for the channel to support itself, which will allow me to breathe a little bit more comfortably and spend more time working on really cool videos and less time trying to bring in business to cover the enormous expenses of this YouTube channel. So I know not everyone likes gating things behind a paywall. I get it. And we are looking at doing some really crazy in-depth classes as I look to turn what is my audio room into a set as well. Don't worry, we have some really cool audio stuff planned. We're going to have hedamames coming soon. I just got in some 3D printed earbuds, some IEMs, if you know what IEMs are, and that's going to introduce you guys into one of my loves, which is listening to music. I am building my dream sound room in a very small room, so we're making it work, and if that's your kind of thing, I'd love for you to come along. There will be streams, there's going to be videos, there's going to be a lot of stuff. So thanks for letting me talk about all of this in the sponsor segment, because I know a lot of people just skip it, and those that don't, I hope you enjoy it. So let's get back into actually working to fix some fails. Why my ABS prints like this? We've got an ABS part here that from the first photo actually looks fine, but when you get to the second photo and the third photo, we've got some problems going on. We got a part that looks okay, and then a part that looks a lot not okay. I've got some questions. The big one is, what printer? We can see that it's ABS, we can see that it's 240 and 100 enclosed with a 45C chamber, but we don't have any other information regarding the printer. And I think that is part of the deal here. We find that darker colors often need to have more temperature, and because of this, black will probably need to be a bit hotter. Although this banding and ribbing that we see here might indicate that we're already too hot. So there are some things that need to be done. But here's where things get a little crazier. Exact same settings, different material, worked perfectly. So this is where we can start to narrow down actual brand issues. Now, they don't tell us what brand it is, but this is a different brand of ABS. I would guess here that we're having some issues with our cooling. And while ABS does not like a lot of cooling when it is printed fast, it is somewhat necessary to have a minimal amount of cooling. I'm talking like 10% on your part cooling fan, because it helps kind of lock everything in as it comes out of the nozzle. If you are printing over the same areas quite a bit, it can cause buildup like we saw in some of these issues. However, at that exact Z height, we shouldn't see any issues. This leads me to believe that this printer might have cooling coming from one direction, which is being blocked by this part here and not getting to the back part. But again, 240 seems a little bit cold to me, but it all kind of depends on the brand. Part of me says, you know, just don't go back to that other brand, but that's not exactly the best thing to solve the problem, right? Because we want to figure it out. We can see that they are over extruding, and that does lead me down the path that we might have some extrusion issues. The reason that we know this is we can even see it here on the red part where it is very obviously over extruding. Those ruffles have ridges. So in between the lines, we have ridges. That's a problem. That means we're over extruding. But for it not to affect one part and for it to heavily affect another says to me it's something more than over extrusion. Furthermore, we can see that the side over here looks okay, but the side over here does not. I think we might be cooling only from one edge. That's my best guess, but we are definitely over extruding. Look at how much that nozzle is just dragging through the print as it's actually printing. So definitely need to go through and work on some settings here. There's going to be a few that we want to change. The first thing is going to be to dial in those steps per millimeter. Now, you could just mess with the extrusion multiplier. They did say they were running 100 or 1 for extrusion multiplier. Maybe going down to 0.95 or 95% might help. But I would first look at adjusting those steps per millimeter and making sure the stepper motor is turning the right amount of turns when it's commanded to do so. Or, you know, at least it pushes the right amount of filament. It's a relatively easy thing to do, and if you guys do want us to make a video on it, let me know, and we'll add that to our queue. But do stay tuned, because next week we are going to be rebuilding my workspace on my standing set. FlexiSpot sent us a desk, and that means we're gonna build it together. I could build it on my own, but there's no fun in that. It's a lot more fun to have you guys watch me struggle to do what often appears to be very common tasks. So thanks FlexiSpot for sending over the desk and lots of accoutrement for it. You guys will get to see it. Keep an eye out for the actual post when the stream goes live, and hopefully by then my internet is fixed. Spectrum. And if you don't get that joke, take a look at our previous podcast where we interviewed Dennis from Thangs. It was a great show, but we posted the raw footage as well because the actual live stream has 20 minutes of it that is just straight missing because of packet loss. Hooray. Anyways, enough of me talking about really cool companies that send me cool desks. Let's get into fixing some more fails. Fixed adhesion for a big print. Whole pad got warped with the print. Any ways to fix this for future prints? This amount of warping looks sketchy. Not only is that sketchy, it's also incredibly impressive. This is not something you get to see very often. This is a Prusa MK3S, or it's at least an MK3. I'm going to assume it's an MK3S Plus. We have a part that is warping so bad. Like, this is ABS levels of warp, except it's not ABS. This is actually PLA HP. I'm assuming it's HT, not HP, so high temperature PLA. And it sucks because color fab is actually really good material. So taking a look at this, it is a high performance, not a high temperature, but that normally means there are some 11 herbs and spices that go into it. And it's got excellent heat resistance. It's easy to print, similar to PLA, and has an incredibly high tensile strength. But high temperature resistance of the material can lead to more warping. That is what we have going on here. So something to keep a note for. Normal PLA wants all the cooling all the time, as fast as you can get it, more. And I will say kudos to the PEI sheet on this Prusa here, because it is trying its hardest to not let go of that part. And that also shows you how good PLA can often stick to a PEI sheet. However, there is probably a draft in the room, whether there is a fan blowing on it or the AC is blowing over it in that specific area. There is likely some sort of draft. Those of you that have air conditioning, and if you live anywhere below the Mason-Dixon, I hope you do, but you do have to be somewhat thoughtful regarding your positioning of your printers in regards to your AC. Specifically for me, my air handler is actually in my office, so we always have air blowing past, especially when the air conditioner is on. So when it comes to the printers, we initially were going to have this wall be the printer wall and the wall behind me be where my desk was going to be, because there are actually windows back there and I could use real light rather than fake light. But because of all the draft, that was not possible. But you really have to make certain. And if you do have an air vent in the room, you can look at either printing or buying a part to deflect the air away from your machines. If you have any desk fans or anything like that blowing as well, it is good to turn those off when you're running a material that has a tendency to warp like this. The other thing you can do is utilize some sort of heated chamber. Be it a regular chamber that you just bring up the temperature, maybe one with the upcoming Politician, which is our product that filters and produces hot air. We were hoping to have it ready for the East Coast Rep Rap Festival, but I have been having a absolute terrible time trying to get parts for this. We are using some relatively unique systems for heating, as well as a really complicated, but also simple, but very complicated to find system for backup control to make sure the system doesn't melt down. And all of that means it won't be ready. So for a case like this, you can also use those grow tents that you can get on Amazon. There are acrylic enclosures that you could build, or you can go crazy jank and use either a cardboard box or even a freaking trash bag with some PVC pipe in it. And while the latter of those two are not recommended whatsoever because they are very dangerous because, you know, fire hazard, it is certainly better than having this result. Wham Bam also makes a product called the Hot Box. If that is something that you'd be interested in, you can use code Musketeers 2022. Yes, it's still Musketeers 2022, last I checked at least, to get some money off of your order from Wham Bam Systems. But for something like this, you know, honestly, I think it's going to be a material problem. But hey, at least you don't have bed adhesion issues, so that's a plus. Next up, a fail from probably one of the most looked up to makers in the industry, Adam Savage. For those who don't know him, former Mythbuster, but also absolute maker extraordinaire, and does lots of videos on the YouTube channel Tested. If you don't know who Adam Savage is, go check out Tested's YouTube channel. We'll link to it in the description down below. Adam is absolutely amazing for the things that he can make and the way that his mind works, and even further, how well he utilizes the space that he has. Some of those workshop products just make me wish that I had the skills that Adam has, or at least a percentage of the skills that Adam has. But recently, he's been getting into 3D printing. Most notably, he has a Bamboo Lab X1 Carbon, I think actually 2 of them, as well as this Kobra Max from Anycubic. Now, I'm not entirely certain why somebody like Adam Savage would get a Bamboo Lab 3D printer, considering he does a lot of things that are protected by non-disclosures, and those machines completely violate those non-disclosures, but I don't care to get into the weeds of it today, because this is not on the Bamboo printer. This is on his Anycubic. Let's take a look at this failure here. Hashtag 3D print, hashtag fail. Remember, if you want to get your fails featured like Adam here, who didn't tag us, but it's Adam Savage, of course I'm going to see it. You can reach out to us on all the social media platforms, use the hashtag PrintFix, and we'll be sure to include it when we see them. This to me looks like he just simply ran out of filament, and this is a great place where using auto supports is a bad move. This is where you should be looking at doing paint on supports, specifically for things here on his face where it very clearly does not need any support material there. That is just one little bit where it is considered an overhang, and the slice says, nope, 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 nope. I'm going to go ahead and put support material here. I would also recommend looking at changing from a hollow structure with a ton, an absolute metric ton of interior support to something like lightning infill. That would greatly reduce the print time on something like this and greatly reduce the material consumption, because I would bet he put a full kilogram roll on this, and that is as far as he got with the full kilogram roll. I have a lot of 3D scanners. This is kind of a known thing around here, and in fact, we just got back our Artex Spider from service, which I do need to recalibrate. Let me know if you guys want that to be a stream where we calibrate it and do some test scans to see how it runs. But I don't think I will ever 3D print myself like this. I already have an identical twin, so it's kind of like I already have the clone walking around. So this is kind of still weird to me, but you know, hey, whatever, people really like to do this kind of thing. In a case like this, a filament runout sensor would go a long way, and I thought the Kobra Max had one, but maybe by the time that it triggered, it was just too late, or they just didn't run it through the filament runout sensor, and we're left with this particular fail. What we can see here is amazing bed adhesion. The part looks really good, the print quality looks great, and of course, it holds glasses quite well, so can't complain. At this point, I think I would go ahead and clean up the support and turn it into some sort of like flower pot or something funny that you would do with a hollowed out human head. That's got Ted Bundy vibes written all over it. Yeah, just a bigger spool of filament is probably your best move for something like this. But Adam did do a great job of orienting it right on the bed. For a big part that also has the long, broad shoulders, you would want to make sure that you orient it as much across the x-axis as possible. That keeps that big, heavy bed from having to move back and forth a ton, introducing extra cooling as well as extra areas for failure. If you try to run printers like this that have those wheels on the bottom fast, this is the kind of thing that can happen. Literally printing so fast until the wheels fall off. We have an Ender 3 S1, I think. And this one was found by the poster's daughter. Woke them up at 3 a.m. saying, "Dad, your printer is making a really bad sounding drilling noise." This pic was taken shortly after I collected the adjustment knobs and springs, but they were all over the place. That's a problem. Fun thing about printers with manual bed leveling like this one has. You have a bed probe. Take out the wheels. They're no longer needed, and in fact, you should be removing the screws too. Doing something like the silicone mod, where you put in silicone tubing that gives it an even amount over all of the bed area, that is really what you want to look for. I would like to do a video on that, but I don't really have a printer. Well, I guess we have the Ender 3 V2. Yeah, maybe we'll do it on our Ender 3 V2. And that can kind of show what its value is, because what you do is after the silicone mod, you put a lock nut on it, or more specifically, a nylon lock nut. So it just doesn't move anymore. However, I'm going to give credit where it's due. That is some damn good bridging. So, good job, Creality. I don't get to say that very often, but good job, Creality. So, what actually happened here, and how can we fix it? During the print motion, the printer was vibrating enough, or had vibrated enough, that the springs and the wheels that hold the springs in place had come undone. If you are happy where your bed leveling is, I recommend putting a little bit of blue Loctite on everything so it doesn't shake itself apart. However, moving the printer can cause some of that stuff to get out of alignment. So these are things that you have to take a look at when dealing with bed slingers, especially ones that still have manual bed leveling knobs, but also still have Creality's BL Touch variant, which they call the CR Touch. I would just remove this. This is your perfect time to go ahead and upgrade to a better system that's not going to have this problem. Your printer just did it for you. It was trying to tell you it wanted the upgrade. You didn't listen, so it's going to show you it needs the upgrade. As far as we're concerned, though, this is really just a loss of material and time. It does not appear the printer is heavily damaged in any sort of way, and other than having to play 52 pickup with the parts, you know, no harm, no foul, just some lost time, some lost plastic, and life goes on. Of course, if you do want to leave these wheels in place, you can just put a lock nut on the back of them. That always works too. I believe you could also do a jam nut assortment if you wanted to. If you only had regular M3 nuts, you could look at using jam nuts, but again, I would just remove it. You have a printer with automatic bed leveling. There's no reason for you to still have those knobs on it. Just my personal opinion. Next up, a fail from the Voron Discord. This one was posted in our Discord by Mr. Chris Catlett, and this one hurts my soul. If you don't know what's going on, you're gonna cringe a little bit. We have a Voron, which appears to be a 2.4 because I can see belts for the Z, so I'm fairly certain it's a 2.4. We've got the MGN 12 linear rail here, and we have some carbon fibre, or it's actually carbon fiber, but we have some carbon fiber here where the nuts have simply pulled themselves out. This proper sucks, because that means this carbon fiber rail is shot. There's no way to fix this unless you actually know what you're doing with carbon fiber. And for the love of all things that are holy, please do not attempt to drill carbon fiber. It produces a lot of dust. That is toxic. Carbon fiber is toxic. Are we supposed to say that? I don't know. Don't do stupid things with fibrous materials. That's how you get lung problems. Don't be an idiot. But this sucks because this pretty much requires you to get a new piece of carbon fiber. And last I checked, those are not very cheap. This is the kind of stuff that scares me. By the way, right, we have our Voron Trident 300 build coming up, and I'm almost done printing the parts. Here, I'm going to show you guys how crazy this build is. For those who don't know, the bamboo is doing the entire print, but that is our color scheme. Voron users might recognize the actual color scheme, but yeah, we're doing a lot of crazy colors on ours, and at some point, I'm just doing it because it looks fun. But this one's got a nice black and red motif. Can't go wrong with that. It just sucks that this carbon fiber rod, or carbon fiber square tube, I guess, is completely shot and would need to be replaced. If you do decide that you're going to make the dumb decision of trying to drill carbon fiber, do it underwater. Put the entire thing of carbon fiber underwater, put the drill bit in the water as well. That will contain the dust and at least keep things okay. The other thing to watch out for is carbon fiber is very sharp. You can and will give yourself carbon fiber splinters, which in my experience are way worse than the splinters that come from fiberglass. Don't be that person. Be nice to carbon fiber. This one does look like it has a can module. Really am looking forward to doing can. We're not doing it from the start. We're going to do a bunch of upgrades, but can is really something that I want to look toward. Although maybe that's not can, because it's more than one wire. It could be the input shaping module. I don't know much about Vorons. I think people should know this by now. And a second fail from the Voron Discord. The belt ain't where it's supposed to be. We can see the belt is down here at the bottom of the motor rather than on the actual motor pulley. And there's a reason for that. Remember how pulleys, you know, look like a spool of filament where it's wider at the top and at the bottom? And this one is just missing that. Yeah, the belt path is wrong here. And the actual belt was rubbing on that aluminum bottom of the pulley for so long that it eventually wore itself through. This absolutely requires looking at the belt routing for the machine and going back and adjusting anything that might be wrong. This can also be caused by over tensioning, but my best guess here is that there's just some issues when it comes to dealing with the actual routing of the belts. So be careful on that, because it is an easy trap to get into where you either over tighten your belts or don't route them properly. When we built our first big from scratch 3D printer before, you know, there were kits, this was like completely from scratch, bought in all the parts, built it ourselves. It was a big D-bot, and I routed the belts wrong, and it actually caused all of the bearings in the X and Y axis to fail. Very expensive mistake that I will not be making again anytime soon. So remember to check your printers, make sure you listen and feel for anything that is rubbing. And if it's rubbing, either one, look at lubricating it because that might be as designed, or two, look at fixing that issue because the rubbing will eventually cause it to wear out. Thankfully, you know, the belt is harder to replace than the motor pulley, so at least it's the easy thing to replace. But we do have to look at why this was caused rather than just the fact that it happened. Remember to calibrate your E-steps when swapping motors. We have talked about this so many times, that making sure your steps per millimeter are really important. And we have a tall boy here. No, not the beverage. We have a tall Benchy here that, honestly, for the fact that the Z motor is, it appears to me that it's double what it should be. This Benchy looks great because the printer is expecting 0.2 millimeter layers and it's effectively doing 0.4 millimeter layers. Always remember to look at your steps per millimeter and check it when you are doing printer upgrades. And do not question the elevated one, as the top comment says. Let me know what you guys think of these fails. My fixes for them in those comments below. I'd love to know what your thoughts are on that ABS part, because it's kind of an odd one. It's not often that we see ABS failures like that are only on one side, so I still think that one is cooling related, but hope you all enjoyed episode 102 of PrintFix Friday. We're getting close to 2 years. 104 would be 2 years since we started PrintFix Friday. That's pretty cool. Thank you all for your support on this entire mission that we've had to solving print failures once and for all. But stay safe out there. Don't forget to call your loved ones. And as always, keep making awesome. Have a good one. Hey, thanks so much for watching this video, and a massive thank you goes out to all of our channel supporters whose names are listed right next to me at the $5 tier and higher. Remember, if you want to support the efforts that we do here, you can do so by clicking those links in that description down below and joining for as little as $1 a month in Patreon, PayPal, or YouTube channel members. Love to have you, and get some behind-the-scenes content. And at the $10 tier and higher, you can come hang out with myself and the other Musketeers in our private Discord server. Right below me will be the entire PrintFix Friday series, where you can see over 100 episodes of me taking a look at prints, how to fix them, and every now and then making fun of them too. Right next to that will be our look at bed leveling and the best ways to do it, where we actually end up using the Filament Friday bed leveler. Worked really well, but go check out that video. I think you will enjoy it. I'll see you all down to those comments and in the next one. Take care.